Good evening, friends. Matt here from theshavingcadre.com. This is part 2 of the honing of this razor, a Dubl Duck Dwarf, which I picked up recently. And the razor had its bevel set on a Naniwa Superstone 1K and a 5K. Right now I'm going to be honing this razor up on a Oozuku Asagi, and then I'm going to be using a progression of Nagura, starting with a Botan, this Botan, a Tenjyou, a Mejiro, and my big old monster Koma Nagura. And then we're going to finish on a soft Tomo Nagura. I'm not exactly sure what it is, to be honest. I know it came from Japanese natural stones, so it should be a good Nagura. It's pretty soft, and it's got a really neat orange look to it. I think that's called Iron Mo. I can't remember to be exact, because I am pretty new to Jnats. This is my third honing session on them. And then I'm using my my buddy Mike's Nakayama Tomo Nagura to finish on a pretty light slurry. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I've already wetted my stone. I'm going to get a little bit more wet. I checked my edge under the Bellomo loop. I use a Bellomo Triplet 10X. And under the loop, I've got a good clean bevel all the way across on both sides. No huge scratches left from the 1K. I did take the razor and I stropped it 40 on linen and 60 on leather. And then now we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm looking at a bevel that's really nice and clean. It does have nice, very nice straight lines, light straight lines left from the 5K. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll get started building my slurry. I think I might have you guys down just a little bit. There we go. And focus. There we go. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the Botan. And the last few honing sessions I've had with this have been pretty great. The first one around, I believe I got some larger particles that came up off of either it was the Botan or the Tenjyou, which kind of stalled me out a little bit, and I had to get started again. But I'm just going to really quickly rub this down, make sure there's nothing foreign on here. I think we're good. Spray it one more time, get it good and wet. And I am a learner on this system, so please, if you see anything that I'm doing wrong or you have suggestions, let me know. I know I had some guys tell me to make sure that I'm finishing on a little bit heavier slurry. There was one gentleman that was telling me to check my edges, which I'm going to do. There's another gentleman that on YouTube told me that he is checking each stone individually and figuring them out, and he's honing the razor up to a 12K, and then he's checking the finish on the razor after he uses the Naguras individually. So, I mean, that may be something I would do in the future as well. So, anyway, I'll go ahead and get started here. And I'll start with a fairly decent slurry. No mud or anything, but... And again, my understanding of the Botan is that we are actually going to be taking the razor back a hair from the 3K, and then we'll be working our way back up, because, excuse me, the Botan is a 5K, and then, oh my gosh, excuse me, the, getting lost in the stone apparently, the Naniwa 5K, and then the Botan's supposed to be somewhere around 3K. So there we go, nice milky slurry, now that I can speak English again. And we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to take a sip of tea real quick. Let's start off with some circles. really nice, smooth slurry. My stone is not exactly even, and so we're trying to kind of having to play with it a little bit to keep the slurry on there. I'm not wanting to flatten the bottom of the stone, but I don't also want to have my stone angled one direction or another to where I'm not keeping the slurry on the stone. And it is plenty wet. Getting a nice undercut on the slurry already. Much less gritty already. I'd like to add, before I ever started on the Jnat, after I stropped the razor, it was popping arm hairs off at about maybe a quarter inch off of my skin. So the razor's already pretty darn sharp. Now, I've seen and heard on videos and had people tell me that they do reduce their slurry throughout the progression, and then they finish on a light slurry and move on to the next Nagura. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm feeling like the Botan's really giving me most of what it can give me. The razor's starting to really want to grab a hold of the stone. The slurry is going over the top of the razor now. Whole lot of resistance coming on now. Doing a little bit of a rolling X stroke here and there too. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and check and see what the edge is looking like on the Velamo. Starting to get really hazy. I'm not really seeing the scratches from the 5K anymore. Kind of hard with where I'm sitting to get good light on it. Yeah, I'm not seeing the scratches anymore really at all from the 5K, so I'd say we could probably move on. I'm gonna do, I think, one more light slurry with the Botan, and we'll move on a little further. Now, the interesting thing about these Jnats is, and it all depends on which stones you have, and of course your experience level. I was talking to my friend Mike the other day, and he was telling me about folks that are very experienced with their Jnats, and they can produce a really nice edge on a Jnat within a matter of really maybe 20 minutes or less. And so the last video I did, I think it ended up taking me about an hour and 20 minutes of honing. So it'd be nice if I could get up to that, but we shall see. Okay, so I think that's good. That's about half as much slurry as I had last time. Rather, and I'm using very, very little pressure now. There we go. Stone feel just changed. Starting to feel that consistent grab up and down the blade. Undercut is getting better. Go maybe another 15-20 laps, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next stone. I think that's the right thing to do. Lighten that slurry up. A few rolling X strokes. think I lied on how many laps I'm gonna do. I think I'll do a few more just because it feels like I can and should. I mean, razor's there, it feels like it's there, but I want to go just a hair further. Okay. Okay. Absolutely no scratches remaining. Really happy with how the edge is looking. Awesome. All the way up and down. Try and get some of this slurry off. There we go. All right. I'll move on to the Tenjyou. Now, if you've been with me this far into the video, 18 minutes in, please do look down here and ring that bell and like and subscribe to my channel. I really get a lot out of the folks that come on my channel and make comments and help me get better at honing and ask questions and kind of have some good fellowship. So please do, if you have time, like and subscribe. I'll give it just a little bit more. Nice slurry. All right. I don't know why I get the consistency from the Tenjyou. It feels kind of more chalky than it does gritty by comparison to the Botan. Had the suggestion to do a few more circular strokes, half strokes in my progression. Had some folks say that they thought it helped them speed up. I don't usually do a ton of them and finish whenever I'm using my Thuringen or my Jasper, but never hurts to try something different. After all, working with the Jnat is completely different than what I'm used to, so. Starting to plow the water real well. Starting to get a bit of an undercut. Starting to feel the stone change underneath the blade. And as I've described before, it's starting to get kind of more bitey, grabbing a hold of the stone. Oops, took the razor a little too far over. Had the shoulder on there for a second. Add a little water. Now, some of you might ask, if you watched my last video, where's the Tsushima Black and the progression tonight? Well, I feel like having too many variables with somewhat consistent outcomes is probably in my detriment, so I decided to remove it because it's not exactly that is kind of redundant. So it's similar grit to the Tenjyou / Mejiro, depending on the stone. And so I decided I would go ahead and just take it out of the running for the night, and then I may reintroduce it and take out the Tenjyou, or take some extra time and do testing on those two stones separately to see where they fall. And our undercut is looking really good. Add a little bit more water, and we're almost ready, I think. I'll take a look under the loop. maybe do 5 more strokes, and then we're going to go ahead and refresh that slurry, potentially, depending on what it looks like. Undercut's beautiful. Feels great on the stone. It's wanting to grab a hold of the stone. Okay. I do see a few little scratches there. Not sure, they were all on my heel. Not sure if they came from the stone. Just a few there, right on the heel. I'll make sure I focus on that. A very consistent grain pattern, or hazing, all the way up and down. And it's slightly finer than what it was on the Botan. So we'll go ahead and refresh the slurry lightly, and hopefully quickly move on to the Mejiro. I'll take this opportunity to reset my stone in here, my stone holder. Don't know why. I pulled on it, it popped right out. It's not what I wanted to have happen. There we go. Depending on if I really like this stone, it may end up getting its own base. I may order myself a piece of rubber and cut out a little spot in the rubber to specifically hang on to this stone. We will see. All right, I'd say that's probably enough. There we go. I'm already starting to feel the slurry change. And stone's already starting to get a little grabby. Undercut's looking good already. Trying to do some heel leading circles. Try and get those little scratches that I saw still in there. Overall though, it's really looking good. Feeling good too. Felt like I was feeling a little grit right there. Maybe it was a hair. I don't know. Really digging the undercut. It's looking great. Maybe do another 20 laps. Give it a little bit more water in between. And we'll move on, I think. Double check my bevel before we move on, but let's see, we're there. This Oozuku is like honing on glass, really. It feels softer than a translucent or a black Arkansas, or even the Jasper. But really just has a wonderful, slick, smooth, velvety feel. Almost like glass, but maybe just with a little bit more resistance. Very hard, you can tell that. All right, that's it for the Tenjyou. Take a look at it real quick under the loop. And off we go. Already moving a lot faster than I was the last time. Good, those scratches on the heel are a thing of the past. Very uniform now. Great. Looks good. Very uniform scratch pattern all the way up and down the blade. So I'd say we are ready to move on. Have a little sip of some tea. Drinking a little tau of tea. Rose. It's one of my wife's favorite teas. I wasn't a tea person until her and I got married. And now it's kind of second nature to reach for tea as opposed to a beer at the end of the night. So we do enjoy our tea time. All right, onto the Mejiro. Slurry on this is slightly yellowish, I think. All right, I'd say that's good enough. Super smooth slurry off of this one. Maybe just a little bit of a chalky feel. Blade's undercutting really well now. Not sure if you can see it, but it's pretty much coming up most of the blade face now. A lot more resistance coming on from the stone as that apex comes closer and closer. Seems as though maybe the slurry has darkened up a little bit. I could be wrong. There may be a hair of a little bit of metal being removed. It's just more of a darker yellow. It's just kind of changed colors. Seemed a lot lighter earlier. I could be wrong. Yeah, the undercut is like basically going over the back of the blade now. But a blade, starting to get a little blade chatter as it slows down. Add just a little bit more water and then I'm going to check that edge, see how it's looking. Okay. Not really seeing any uniform scratches of any kind now. I wasn't really seeing it at Tenjyou either. Very beautiful uniform haze on the blade now. Cool. All right, gonna go ahead and rinse off and do another light slurry and move on to the Koma. So that's enough. Already a good undercut on the blade. Feels awesome. Lighten it up just a hair more, and then I think might do 10-15 more laps, and switch up to the Tomo, or to the Koma. There we are. Right. Now move on to the big old Koma. Try to make sure there's nothing hanging out on there. Alright, I'd say that's enough. Super smooth slurry there. The coating on kind of velvety ice. Right now my pressure is basically just weight of the blade, very light. It's hard to describe how smooth the honing is on this Nagura. Got a good undercut going already, and the blades won't stick to the stone already. Resistance is there. Focus on that heel just a hair. Make sure I throw a few rolling X strokes in there. If any of you veterans have any comments on slurry thickness, I would gladly take it. My thought is working on a moderate slurry for a longer period of time will keep your edge moving forward and not backwards, whereas a heavier slurry takes off more metal, it's more aggressive. Maybe it could get you there faster. I would just be interested in hearing kind of all of your insights that you have on that. Like if you're working a caudicle and you have heavy slurry, your heavy slurry on a caudicle is going to be removing a lot of metal until you reduce it. And so I assume it's the same concept. So when you're closer to finishing, like with this Koma, I'd much rather err on the side of caution and not go full-on milk slurry. I understand that if it's dripping off your blade, you're in good shape, but you know, I just want to make sure I'm not taking it too far. And that's probably why I'm doing two slurry sessions per stone right now too, because I'd much rather go lighter and then do another lighter slurry as well to make sure I'm there. Yeah, the undercut on this is great. I've got the slurries going all the way up the blade now. Good resistance coming on. I'm just going to keep diluting. Slow down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and check bevel to see where we're at. Interesting how the slurry on this one coming off of it is a little gray. I guess that's the color of the slurry and the stone. Granted, it has black specks in it. I mean, that would make sense. Very consistent. Getting pretty shiny, actually. Struggling with my light to get the edge. Shoo. I bet you could shave off of that easily. I'm sure you could. That's great. Just curious. Yeah, popping arm hairs. I've heard you can shave right off the Koma, so that's nice. All right, I'll do one more quick dilution slurry off of this, and we will move on. Right at an hour. I think the last honing video I did was an hour and 30 minutes, so I think I've sped up just a hair. I like to think I have. I'd say that's enough, just a nice light slurry. Good and slow already, that's great. Solid undercut. Actually, it's kind of going over the top of the blade a little bit. Blade's getting super slow. I think we're about ready to move on to the Tomo. Do maybe 10 more laps and call it a day on this one. Awesome. Just a really cool, smooth feel off of this stone. I like it a lot. It kind of reminds me of honing on an Escher in some ways. Perfect. All right. On we go. All right, here's the big old Tomo. It's kind of nice. It really fits the hand well, no matter which hand you hold it in. Super soft. All right, I'd say that's plenty. Okay. Really should send Maximum an email and ask him what this Tomo is, if he knows. Just so I can have some idea. Breaks down pretty fast because we're already hitting a really nice undercut already. And the stone's pulling some resistance pretty well. Really looking forward to the shave with this one. I'm trying to remember if I've ever shaved with the Dubl Duck Dwarf. I feel like I honed one and sent one to somebody before, but I've honed a lot of double ducks, so I can't really remember. I don't think I've ever had one in my hands that's as in good a condition as this one. Really excellent undercut right now. Thinking I'm going to start diluting this pretty soon. Stone is plenty grabby. Man, I think I need a little tea. Maybe next time I'll have to have a Glencairn glass full of bourbon. Both are equally relaxing. I wonder if their viscosity is about the same if you were to use it on the stone. I have a feeling the bourbon may be slightly better. They definitely both go down the hatch well. Let's lighten this up. Getting a fair amount of deja vu from my last toning session, how the blade was feeling right at this point. The resistance is very similar. Really like the lovely orangish brown color of the slurry on this stone. I imagine if the stone was white, it would just really pop. So our undercut is all the way up the blade now. Starting to kind of go over the backside. Okay, I'm going to check it under the loop, see where we're at. Really cool orange trace on there, orangish brown. Even smaller and hazier. Yeah, I'd say just a little light slurry on this next one and we'll call it done. Rather, after the final Tomo. Super light pressure now. Already getting a great undercut. It's coming along quickly. Honestly, I think I could probably stop here. I feel like it's super consistent up and down the blade edge. Undercut is great. The stone is grabby but not crazy. It's would imagine it wouldn't be very harsh at this point. It'd be a pretty comfortable edge. Just feels super smooth and comfortable on the stone. I don't think I'm gonna do a heavy slurry at all with this, with the Nakayama Tomo. I think I'm just gonna do a light trace slurry and finish there, because it feels like it really does feel like it's done. And again, I mean, if you're still watching at this point, I'm an hour and 23 minutes in. I mean, you're a champ. Please like and subscribe, and let me know what's going on. If you're still watching, just send me another message. Say, hey, yeah, I'm still watching, Matt. I think you've been honing way too long, or something. I mean, I know some people, like I said earlier, can knock out a progression in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, whereas other people can get these progressions done in the span of an hour and a half, like myself. And it seems like that's my standard. This being I think my third or fourth. I don't even know yet how many times I've honed. It's getting late. All right. Nice light slurry coming on. Probably could have used a little less water, but it's all right. I'd say that's good. It's very quote-unquote tracy. Go ahead and wipe off the previous slurry. Super smooth, ultra smooth. Starting to undercut, and we're starting to get a lot more blade feel on the stone, kind of getting tuggy. I do not believe I'm going to dilute this slurry. I think I'm going to leave it as is. It is ultra fine. take a look at it real quick. Might go a hair further, but I think we're just about done. Again, if you're still watching, thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate it, guys. Very fine. Super hazy edge. I think this will probably be the best one yet so far. Really happy with how it's looking right now. I think the blade's telling me everything I need to know. It's really very slow on the stone now. Undercuts there. Very smooth. I think I'm going to call it with that, guys. I think that's enough. I'll go ahead and test shave it here tonight, see what I think. But looks to be a very nice edge. And I will let you know how that goes, because I will record that as well. And I guess if it's not, I'll be back to the stones. So again, thanks for joining me for my honing journey with the Jnats. And really do hope you continue to follow my channel. And have yourself a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.